So, are you ready to play Rescue My Digital Office? Today's game space is choosing your calendar colors. So, for those of you who use the digital calendar or are thinking of using a digital calendar, there are a couple things that you can do to make it even more useful and to give you um, a very fun and colorful way of knowing what sort of day you're going to be having or what sort of week you're going to be having based on the colors you choose for your calendar. Now, there's a variety of ways that you're going to want to work with your calendar. One of the biggest things that I recommend first, of course, is that you choose a day of the week to make sure you go over your calendar so that you know what you've got going on and whether or not you have enough white space and enough appointment spaces. So, but we are going to talk about the very specific and fun feature of the calendars in the Office 365 environment, the Microsoft 365 calendar, and the Google Calendar. And these techniques work with both the free versions and the paid versions of those products. Now, the first thing that we are going to do is choose a default color for our digital calendar. Now, you might think initially that this is a no-brainer kind of thing, but there is a little bit more strategy to it. So I want you to take a look at this calendar. I'm going to dismiss this reminder. This calendar here, we've got several fun colors because I've already have the color system set up for you to view and see how it looks. We've got our colors set up here and we've got items on our calendar. We have a default calendar color, and that default calendar color will be the color of your appointments when they are brand new. As soon as you create a new appointment, just like this. So this new appointment is this fun teal color, and this is among my very favorite colors. It's super great. So this is what a new appointment color looks like. These other colors you change. So they don't automatically happen this way. They're ones that you choose automatically. So this is the Office 365 look. This is the Gmail look. And again, it also has a default calendar color so that our new appointments look like that. This particular one, I've got it in this nice, pretty white, pretty light lavender. And in this one here, I have this fun little teal. Now, that's all well and good, except for the fact that there are other colors in our calendar that will allow us to see at a glance what we've got going on. And one of the most important things that you're going to want to be able to see at a glance are the appointments that you haven't actually made decisions about. So we've got appointments in our day that, it shows up on our calendar, we go do it. We have other appointments on our calendars where a few minutes before or a day or two before, we need to actually take some action to prepare for these appointments. We also might have a certain number of appointments in our head knowing I've got to deal with these. So what we need is we need a way to know when we've got something new on our calendar that we haven't really given much attention to. So this is where your default calendar color becomes very important. So we actually want your default calendar color to be a color that annoys you, that is a color that you don't actually want on your calendar. So we want it to be the biggest, the brightest, the most annoying color we can find. Now, some of these colors are super pretty no matter how we look at it. And we all have our own opinions about what an annoying color is. Rule number one, it's got to pop. So even if it's your absolute favorite color, let's say red, you can choose red because it's nice and it pops. It's a very good uh, default calendar color. Red is the color I use for my calendar because it really pops. If we choose that teal color, it sort of blends in. This gray kind of blends in. Now, granted, we could have all these other colors be extremely shiny colors, and then your new one be a super dull color. That's entirely up to you. What we want is for it to pop out so that we know that we have new appointments that we need to do a slight amount of thinking about. So here's how it looks in our Office 365 calendar. Over on the side, we've got these three little dots. You can click them and choose your color, your default calendar color from there. If you already have a fun color scheme that you're madly in love with, changing this default color will only affect the new appointments and ones that haven't been assigned your particular favorite colors. Then over here on our Google Calendar, we've got a very similar situation. My lovely little lavender here is not very poppy, not very bright. So I'm going to hover over here to these three little dots, and I can choose a new calendar color. And of course, I'm going to choose a nice obnoxious red. Fun fact about the Google Calendar, and this is something that I'm excited about and super bummed about. Your default calendar color can be a custom color. So if you have a branding color and you know your hexadecimal numbers, you can add them here and choose a very custom color. The problem is it can only be used for your default calendar color. So that's kind of a super bummer. I'm hoping that they're going to allow us to customize all the colors in the Google situation. That would be really great. So that's just a fun fact. Here we've got our default calendar color. And notice in Google, we've got these nice little edges that show us what our default calendar color is. And that's pretty cool. So here we've got our new appointments, and we have our previous appointments that we have already identified for their colors. So let's take a look and see how we want to actually choose what sort of appointments we want to do have specific colors for. Let's go back to our little blog post of instructions. I have a little download that you can print out here that will let you really think through your colors and get them, documented. And we can call this this is the documented procedure. These are the colors. Love documenting things. So you can print that out. Our next step in our choosing of our calendar colors is to choose your first two colors. So the first two colors that you're going to want to identify are for the appointments that have a solid time. This is a doctor's appointment. This is a client call. This is something where you have to show up on a specific date, on a specific time, and do a specific thing. So so that it's solid on your calendar. So anything in that color, I like to use for my I like to use kind of a navy color here in the Microsoft calendar. I've got these ones here for my client calls. And then I like to use a lighter blue color for appointments that I need to block out time to get the things done that I need to get done, but it doesn't actually have to be at 9 a.m. I could, if I needed to, I could move this appointment around to another time on my calendar because it's not set in stone. And I can see that very quickly. I can look at this going like, no, I'd have to call people and change these appointments. Those are the first two colors. So I like to do a dark color for my solid appointments, and I like to do a lighter color for my flexible appointments. And those are kind of the minimum two colors that you'd want to choose. And so that would mean that you have a total of three colors for your calendar. You have your flexible time appointments and you have your solid time appointments. Now, when we had this new appointment, it popped in, and this new appointment, it might have gone onto your calendar because you were out with your friend and they said, hey, can we get together on this time and this date? And you just put it in there real quick because you knew you needed to save that time. That's all the thinking you needed to do at the time. Or perhaps you have an automatic scheduler like Calendly or Acuity, and it's synchronized with your super cool digital calendar. And occasionally, appointments just sort of pop into your schedule. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at our Google schedule. It's got the same scenario here. This darker blue for our set appointments, this lighter blue for our flexible appointments, and these red ones are our new ones. So once these red appointments pop in, you can open your calendar and you immediately see, oh, neat, I've got a new appointment that I have to kind of think about. Now, as you're thinking about it, is this new appointment a flexible appointment or is it a solid date and time appointment? Well, this new client session, this is totally a solid date and time. I'm going to just do it for this event here. Solid date and time appointment. So I'm going to turn it blue. I have acknowledged its existence and I've done what I needed to do about it. Now, one nice thing about this evaluation couple of seconds is that I can see that this is a new client session. And let's say that I want to have a certain amount of prep time before each, new client session. I can just put that in my calendar here because I'm looking at it right now and I can know I want to have at least a half an hour before this appointment so I can do what I need to do. Now, I'm going to go ahead and call this focus time because I could start it at, 3:15 if I wanted to. I could also decide to prep it, before lunch. So I'm choosing this lighter blue color. And so that's what I would do with each of my new appointments and just acknowledge them by giving them a different color. We're going to move on and we're going to decide that our situation is a little bit more complex. So it's a little bit more complex in the fact that, let's say I have set appointment times for my professional appointments of solid set time and focus time for, or more flexible time for my professional appointments. This is my kind of my working time versus my personal time. So maybe I have personal appointments like dentist appointments, doctor's appointments, children's games, that kind of thing. And I also have personal time appointments. I want to know when can I just have a time to just say, hey, I'm going to just sit and I'm going to read a book, or I'm going to have my lunch and not be disturbed. And then I also like to have choose a color for driving time or transition time if it were like that you have to be somewhere at a specific time in a specific place. And if you don't leave a certain amount of minutes before that, you'll be late. We don't want to be late. So we're going to choose three more colors. And in this case, in our Google Calendar here, I've chosen this dark green for my personal appointments, and I've chosen this light green for my personal time, my break time appointments, my me time appointments. And then I've got yellow for drive time. So as I go through my day and my planning period, I always have my planning time in the morning on Monday. I can look at my calendar and decide, okay, here's a new appointment. This is a client appointment. Here's another client appointment. I've got these set as reoccurring so I can have good examples for you. We're just going to say that it's just this event. So here I've got these now. I have identified what they are and I have given them their appropriate color. Now for Google, this is super easy. Your colors are what they are. When you hover over here, you've got these choices of colors. The only real option of color changing that you have with Google is you can make them lighter or darker. So if you don't like this big, bold brightness, you can change them and you can set them to a little bit more classic. In which case, now they're a little bit more muted. They're not quite as bright and bold. And so you can decide that with how you want to actually have your colors for your Google. When you are creating an appointment, notice that we did have our appointments, our new appointments were in that red color. So here we're making a new appointment. You can edit the color in a couple different ways. You can do a right click, or as some people call it, a secondary click. Or if you have a trackpad, take your two fingers and click on it with two fingers on your trackpad, and that will bring up this color picking option. And these are your choices. And you just choose the color that you have already identified. This type of appointment is this type of an appointment. Say we've got our personal appointment. Let's say we have to drive there. We can immediately put in a drive appointment. And I like to put this drive appointment right over the top because I need to leave the house at a certain time, and then there will be a certain time after the appointment where I'm coming back in my car or walking or whatever we're doing these days. Again, we right click or secondary click and we choose our color. That's how it's done in Google. Now in Microsoft, it's slightly different and in some cases, it's slightly more fun. It's a little bit more complicated, but it is more fun. So in your Microsoft account, these colors are actually not called colors as much as called categories. So when I do that right click or secondary click, I can go to categorize and I can choose from my options here. Now, when you first open your Microsoft account, and it's a new, fresh Microsoft account, these will be category red, category blue, category green, super generic. You can go in and manage these categories and give them fun little names. Now, we can't actually edit these ones except for the specific color that you'd want to use. But you can create a new category and you can call it professional time to use and save it. And then that will show up in your list. Looks like we called it personal time here. So it'll show up in your list and then you can choose it from that category list on your individual appointments. So this is a quick rundown of how you deal with your calendar colors. And one last little bit of information that I would like to share with you is that this works really well with the Office 365 calendar or the Office Live Outlook calendar and your Google Calendar. If you are using the app associated with that brand of calendar on your phone, you will see these colors. So if you've got the Outlook app on your phone and you look at your Outlook app, at the calendar on your Outlook app, you'll be able to see these individual colors. Same with Google. If you've got the Google Calendar app on your phone, whether it's an iPhone or an Android, you'll see these colors. If you're using the native app, the calendar app that came with your phone, you're likely not to see these colors. It's going to be a little bit more generic. It'll be the Apple's calendars. I think the Android app might give you these colors if you are using your Google account, but I can't quite remember off the top of my head if it allows it or not. So if you are using your iCloud calendar, that one's a little bit different as well in that the Microsoft and the Google, you have one calendar and you can choose a bunch of different colors. For your Apple calendar, you would have a bunch of different calendars and each calendar could be a different color. So it's a slightly, it's a more clumsy system. So I generally don't recommend the iCal, but it's sufficient. And if you're not as particular about these colors, it'll work. And if you're okay with having multiple calendars of different colors for your particular type of events, that also works. I mean, these things are definitely workable and customizable. So that is it for today. Thank you for playing the Rescue My Digital Office game with me. To continue this adventure, you can download the game board at my website at luxcentric.com/game and play it for yourself. Take a look at all of the different options and choose something that resonates. Or here's a fun little thing. I have this little picker that will allow you to take a screenshot and it will allow you to pick what topic you might be working on. Thank you all for joining me, and until next time, I will see you all about the internet.